You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
What's going on, Steelers Nation Radio? Welcome to The Drive on a Victory Monday here in early September. Matt, the Steelers, just like we both predicted, a close win.
Close game,
I think it went exactly
down
the
wire,
way.
right?
I think we all thought it was going to play out like that. No.
Nailed it.
Exactly. Nobody thought that it was going to play out like that. The lowest over-under of the Week 1 NFL slate ends up being the second highest scoring game.
Insane.
Until Buffalo-Baltimore last night.
I didn't confirm this, but I think those are the only two games that hit the over the whole weekend.
I'll have to look into that.
I mean, I know unders are big, and that was the lowest. I mean, it couldn't have been more. I mean, it was one of the highest scoring games. It predicted to be one of the lowest scoring games. A lot to unpack. I almost said I don't want to overreact because it's week 1.
It's week 1, and that's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, week 1s are weird. New coaching staff.
Even week 2s can be a little weird
No
sometimes.
doubt,
So
no doubt. And it'd be a hard
in.
game to prepare for. But I want to give the Jets a lot of credit. I think they're a better football team and a better coach football team than I expected. And that's one thing I always do on Mondays is I think you have to recognize the opponent. I mean, these guys are getting paid too. And that was the best I've ever seen Fields play. And some of their first-round picks on both lines of scrimmage are going to turn into really good players. And I like this coaching staff. But that being said, so my point is a lot of people look at Jets like that's one of the worst 2 or 3 teams in the league. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be. But I also think there's a lot of work to be done, too. I mean, the negative column for the Steelers in that game is pretty extensive and worrisome.
It sure is, and we will obviously get to that today. We're going to catch up with our buddy Rob King about 15, 20 minutes from now as well, too. The voice of the Steelers, get his perspective from what he saw there in the booth. But I think you're right. That's the beauty of a Week 1 win. I guess still, I don't even want to say ugly.
But we can do it with a smile on our face. You know what I mean? Right? If Oz misses that kick, all of a sudden burn the place down, you know?
It's almost exactly what you want in a way.
Yeah.
There's positives to build off of. There's still plenty that you can harp on these guys about this week so that they're not feeling too good about themselves either.
Yeah.
But you're 1-0. And
I think you have a quarterback.
And I think you have a quarterback. And that's where I wanted to start, Matt. Is
I think you have to.
There are some concerns and some negatives and some things that we'll get into, certainly. But my goodness, I think even the most optimistic Aaron Rodgers supporters heading into this 2025 season. Mm-hmm. And I think you were certainly one of them. And I think
he's pretty impressive to be around at camp, as you know, and those type of things. It's hard not to be impressed.
Yes. I think I was maybe only a half a step behind you in terms of expectations for this guy and what it would mean for the Steelers offense and what he still had left in the tank. But I didn't think that was going to translate to 4 touchdown passes in the first game of the season.
Or that many points. Yeah, I mean, we have not, or an opening drive touchdown. Maybe we should have opened the show with the opening drive touchdown.
Didn't do it all last year.
Right.
You want to know the last time the Steelers opened a season with an opening drive touchdown?
Oh, man, I don't even.
2008 against the Houston Texans.
Holy smokes. Okay, wow.
Long time. I was still in high school, Matt.
Wow.
I'm a 34-year-old father of 2 now.
Right. So, no, there's a lot of good. I mean, this game, as much as I can remember, the good column, we could really talk about. And we might as well start there, of course.
Absolutely.
I think Rodgers is at the top of it with Boswell. And the bad column is, as you know, pretty obvious. I mean, there's things that, should I go in this column or this column? Oh, I know what column to put all these things in. So let's start with Rodgers. First of all, I'm not going to start with Rodgers. I'm just going to talk about old guys and leadership and being around the block. I think that was huge in this game, that one team is trying to learn how to win and first-time head coach. The other one always has a winning record and wins one-score games like it's their job and has Cam Hayward and Watt and Rodgers and Ramsey and Slay and Metcalf. A lot of these guys are new, not all of them, that understand that the fight is not lost just because we're not good at some things. You know, that in the end, this is going to come down to a couple plays probably in the fourth quarter. And I think there's an art to making those plays. And obviously the guy that touches the ball every snap, the quarterback, has a ton to do with that. We've joked, it just ended, but Pat Mahomes won 17 one-score games in a row.
It's insane.
That's not an accident. You know what I mean? Let alone the Rodgers and Cams and guys that have been around the block over and over and over and understand what it takes to win in this league. And Tomlin's really good at that too. And I think that they overcame some major deficiencies to make plays at the most opportune times,
That's a good way to
both
put it.
sides of the ball, and especially on special teams. And that's why you won, I'm down in, down out. I didn't think they were the better team.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my
on that day.
I'm gonna do my rewatch tonight,
Mm-hmm.
and I was thinking maybe tomorrow we could unveil like a new segment, maybe like a Tuesday rewind or something like that,
Yeah.
where we bring up something that we didn't discuss on Monday that we noticed from our rewatch. What's so crazy to me is, hey, I was thinking driving in here, like it's been a long time since we saw the Steelers offense win a game, but that's not technically true because they did last year in Cincinnati.
True. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
They scored 42 points,
Yeah.
and the defense gave up 38, I believe was the final score of that game, if I'm remembering correctly. The offense won the Steelers a game that day.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't happen often in the last 5 years or so, but, right.
And I think if I would have called you up at halftime, or maybe even told you before the game, the Steelers are going to have 22 rush yards on 10 attempts at the half.
Ugh.
They're going to have 22 yards on the ground, averaging 2.2 yards per carry in the first 30 minutes of that game.
Yeah.
I think we would have both said, even if Aaron Rodgers plays great, it's not going to be enough to overcome that.
Yeah, he's not the Superman that's going to throw 4 touchdowns.
That's the most impressive part of the offense winning the game to me.
Yes.
Is that they still had nothing on the ground.
And frankly, I thought their protection was terrible too.
Not very good.
If you coupled that, I'd be like, oh, they lost 30-0. Like they can't protect, Quinnen Williams, those 2 first-round picks coming off the edge for the Jets are winning consistently in the pass rush department. Where are the points coming from? Well, I think a lot of it, I give credit to Rodgers and Arthur Smith matching their philosophies and working together for the first time and figuring out we don't know exactly what we're getting from this defense. We know they have some good players, Sauce, the Williams brothers, those 2 edge guys. We know that this is a defensive-minded head coach who's aggressive, and they obviously had a game plan like any game going in, but you didn't have any tape to go off of, and you're going to have to improv on the fly. And there were some themes that really worked. First off, one theme was terrible, is they couldn't run the ball at all. And I'm not saying they gave up trying, but they didn't just keep pounding their head against the rock either. I know Metcalf had a really good day, but they rarely threw at Sauce. Metcalf had most of his production when it wasn't Sauce. Austin, there was a just don't throw at Sauce situation because the rest of their secondary is pretty bad, to be honest with you. So why would you? Why test their best dude when there's a noticeable drop-off? To me, one of the most important things or telling things from the passing game, though, and people are going to take this as a negative, but I think it was forced and they still made it work really well. Rodgers didn't throw a pass 20 yards downfield or further. His average depth of target was remarkably low. Ball came out of his hands really, really fast because they couldn't protect. And so he's a very quick processor. They threw a lot of screens. Some of them worked, some didn't. They had 171 yards after the catch. And we haven't talked about this a lot, but we've talked about how sacks are as much a quarterback stat as O-line stat. After the catch is as much a quarterback stat as having Tyreek and good guys after the catch. You got to hit him in stride. The ball's got to be there on time.
Throw him open.
You throw him open. Go to the right people at the right time. So that stuff was wonderful. So it wasn't we're just going to drop back and sling it 50 times. We're going to get it out. We're going to nickel and dime you. We're going to let our guys make plays after the catch, and we're going to avoid Sauce, and we're going to avoid their pass rushers because we're not handling those things very well, and we're not running the ball at all, and you still generated a lot of points. That, to me, is promising.
It's promising. I think.
Well, some of it. I wish they could block better.
I was going to say it's promising if they improve in the deficient areas.
To still get a W out of that is promising.
And score over 30 points.
Right. And it wasn't a 13-9 game.
It wasn't. Was. Oh, on Brawl Week, you just had to do that one to me. Huh?
Right.
I think that's spot on. That passing chart is weird to look at, isn't it?
It is weird
because you could see
a good one. We haven't seen a good one in 1,000 years.
I was going to say I think it's exciting because there's a lot of middle of the field stuff.
Yeah,
which haven't we been screaming about in this town for the length of a presidential election.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like an
Olympic
cycle.
Right.
And there was a ton of that. The 20 yards downfield, you see that. You see, I think, what his average depth of target was like 4.6, 4.8 yards.
It was under 5.
Under 5 yards.
Yeah.
But I still think, all things considered, that you couldn't run the ball like you wanted to.
No.
Sauce was doing Sauce things.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers got sacked 4 times.
And he's not going to elude the rush. He's going to recognize unblocked defenders. He's going to know where the blitzes are coming from. And it's a pretty blitz-heavy team, too. He's going to know Quinnen Williams is giving our guys problems. I mean, he's going to know everything, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be like the game last night, where Lamar does this crazy stuff. I mean, those days I think are gone with Rodgers. But he is willing to sit there and take the hits, which worried me. I mean, I don't think he was.
A couple of those.
It wasn't like,
they got him.
Here. Right. It was, and I just don't think he's going to extend plays. But if the blocking would be a little better for him, the average depth of target's going to go up. And he throws the ball well. He throws the ball well.
Does he ever?
Right. That's like burying the lead,
Still. I mean, it looks different coming off his hand. It's absolutely crazy.
He's still really impressive. Right.
That's a very good way to put it. And I figured that we would see that from Aaron Rodgers this season. I didn't think it was going to be week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think it was going to be that kind of performance, throwing the ball that much, doing it that successfully.
I kind of just assumed, and we said this to some degree, more or less whoever runs the ball or deals with the run game better is probably going to win this. And that was clear which team did.
On both sides of the ball.
Both sides
much
of the ball.
Better.
Way better. And they still lost, the team that did that.
They sure did. And it's not like there was some crazy turnover differential outlier or
right.
something like that. It was just finding a way to win. Yeah. I mean, in the past, the Steelers go down 9 points there right late in the second quarter. Like in the past, it'd be like, we're down 2 possessions. We're in trouble. This game might be. I know it's only
a different outlook.
I know it's a little before halftime here, but this game might be over.
Mm-hmm.
It is certainly a different outlook, and Aaron Rodgers, I think, was definitely the guy that was the straw that was stirring that drink.
No, absolutely, the catalyst for it all. And again, I think a lot of it is a lot of veteran leadership led by a quarterback that the game's never quite over, and we'll figure out a way to win because we got a lot of time left. Now there were a couple plays. But there's an art to this, too, that Boz hitting a 60-yarder is incredible. Oh, by the way, he hit a 56 as well. People don't even talk about that. That's like walking a park.
That's just assumed at this point.
Yeah, nothing to it. Obviously, the Gainwell causing a fumble on the kickoff return gave him a short field, turned into 7 immediately, was a massive, massive play. But that's not a fluke. I'm not saying these things are flukes. And the other thing was the Jets chasing these 2-point conversions. They got 0 points out of what could have been 2 extra points or two-point conversions. And frankly, I don't even blame the rookie head coach for going for 2 after the penalty because you're half the distance. You probably should do it. But then he chased it again. You lose by 2. That could have been 2 extra points.
Mm-hmm.
Like in these fine lines, those couple plays all went the Steelers' way.
And, man, they've just had a knack for doing that,
Yeah.
certainly.
Again, I'm not saying that's fluky.
No, it's not. It's part of their DNA, in fact.
Right,
and when you do that and you get a performance like you got from Aaron Rodgers, you can overcome a lot of that negative that we discussed.
Usually it's like, they won in the margins with turnovers and that extra point and
blocked
Boz
a
gets
punt.
his line. Right. Yeah, but the quarterback was the 25th best quarterback of the week. Well, this guy
he was top 10 this week.
Exactly, right.
He certainly was. Let's talk about all these things and more with our buddy Rob King, the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers, called it all from MetLife Stadium there in East Rutherford. We'll talk to the Kinger when we return on the other side, get his thoughts on that Week 1 victory against the Jets. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it's The Drive on a Victory Monday. Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on the drive here on a Victory Monday as we have plenty to get to, and who better to join us to discuss than the voice of your Pittsburgh Steelers. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere, Matt, doing a million different shows and a million different things. It's our buddy Rob King. What's up, Kinger?
What's going on, guys? How are you, man?
Couldn't be better.
Little victory.
Okay, that was a good segment.
Boom. Talk to you later. We'll do it next week.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for your time, Rob. We'll see you against Seattle. Kinger, let's dive right into it because I'm sure plenty that we want to discuss with you, and we don't want to keep you here for an entire hour. But I think as there is so much to get into from that Week 1 game, there always is Week 1, but this one felt even a little more ramped up. But it feels like every conversation kind of starts and ends with Aaron Rodgers doing 4-time MVP things, and despite an offense that couldn't run the ball very well or protect him, he still finds a way to score 17 points in the fourth quarter. A big shout out to the serial killer, Chris Boswell, and to throw for 4 touchdowns after no preseason action. I mean, if that's I don't expect him to do that every week, obviously, but if that's the starting point for him, wow.
Yeah, it's a wow. I mean, I think he and, the game plan the Steelers put together, and, he mentioned that in his post-game comments. That was the number one great thing you're going to take out of that game because, Aaron Rodgers is a guy that has had an unbelievable career. We all know that. Disappointment in New York the last 2 years. We all know that. The 1 year, truncated, what was it, 8 plays or whatever. I don't even know if he played that many before he had the Achilles injury. So, not what he wanted. And I don't think that's the way he wants to go out. And so there are a lot of eyebrows raised about what can he do. And people look at the overall numbers and the passer rating, and maybe they don't do the deeper dive into what he did in the last half of the season, which was put up great numbers. Still, you have to see it. And we hadn't seen it because he didn't play in the preseason. So, to be able to see all that with that sort of backdrop of expectations, and, a lot of the expectations are, through whichever lens you want to see it. It's a personal thing, but what he showed yesterday was not personal, not a personal thing. You had to look at that and say that was impressive. I think it was the number one takeaway of the game was how good Aaron Rodgers looked.
You mentioned often just now, you could see it. You could see it. I bet when you're calling the game and doing the play-by-play and describing each play individually, you can feel it too. It has to be a lot different than the other guys, with all respect to those dudes, behind center since you've been doing this.
Yeah, I mean, he's a different guy.
Yeah.
I think Russell Wilson was a little bit different guy too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Russell is a guy that, Justin Fields, you're kind of hoping along with him, right? He's a really, I found him to be a very likable young man. He's got some talent and some ability.
Boy, he played well yesterday, too. I want to give him credit. He played really well yesterday.
He played great.
Yeah.
He played great. And he might find the perfect system, a system willing to just give over to his skills, right? 100% buy-in. This is what we want to do. This is the system for you. Come on in. I mean, there's one thing, to being adaptable, and I think Arthur Smith's very good at that. Don't forget they were 4-2 with Justin Fields as a starting quarterback last year. It's another thing to go say, okay, we're going to change everything for you. You are part of this change, the perfect fit for this change. I think he is. I think he's a perfect fit for what the Jets are going to try to do. And they're going to try to do a lot of what they did yesterday. I think they're going to be one of the heaviest run teams in the league. I think they're more patterning themselves after the Eagles or the Jets than they are of any other team around the NFL. They want to have a hard-nosed identity. They want to run the football. That includes running it with a guy who had 1,100 yards rushing a couple of years ago for the Bears out of the quarterback position. So kudos to him. But, even last year in camp, when we were watching Russell Wilson throw the ball, it's just a different zip to it. It's a different, the word I always use with Russell Wilson was crisp. Everything looked crisp, and he was a great thrower of the deep ball. Well, now you're bringing in a guy, and this is no knock on Russell Wilson. I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, is he a Hall of Fame quarterback or isn't he a Hall of Fame quarterback? I tend to think he is. Others might have their questions. Aaron Rodgers is first ballot. There's a difference, right? There's just a difference. And with Aaron Rodgers, the Aaron Rodgers we saw yesterday, there's a difference. That was impressive. The off-platform throws, the different things he did, the organization at the line of scrimmage. If you were watching the Sunday night game last night, they had on a former player and a former coach. They're doing the breakdown of the game quickly and said, Aaron Rodgers, when he got to the line of scrimmage, he terrified you because he knew your defense better than you did. And the former Cowboys coach jumped in and said, "Yep," felt that same way from not only as a player but as a coach too. That's the kind of thing he brings in addition to the talent, which is still there, which was on. You guys saw it up in Latrobe. We didn't see it in the preseason, obviously, but what we saw in Latrobe was impressive, and what we've seen at practice over on the South Side since they've returned is impressive. He just makes throws other people can't.
Kinger, I think 2 weeks ago, I filled in for Max on your guys' show in the locker room and did 2 hours of Steelers talk with you. And we spent some time, like it feels like everybody did leading up to this season, talking about the Steelers wide receiver options behind DK Metcalf. Do they need to acquire somebody else? Do they need a true number 2? Do they just need another piece? Do you believe in Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson and Scotty Miller and all those other guys? I think we laid it out like, are you calm? Are you concerned? Are you worried? Are you panicked about the Steelers' number 2 wide receiver? I think you and I were both maybe on the concerned, not panicked, not worried, not calm. I think we said concerned. I tell you what, one game in, but Calvin Austin, I think, starting to alleviate some of those concerns with the performance he had yesterday as well.
And Kinger, I know Jonnu Smith's growing on you as well.
Oh, yeah. Look, the minute they made that trade, because the headline of that trade was, Minkah Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey. And you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting, man. I kind of like that trade for the Steelers. It's a cornerback league. I like Minkah Fitzpatrick. You'd like to have them both. But give me the corner. Give me the elite corner. And then I'm reading through, I'm like, whoa, man, we got Jonnu Smith too? I mean, again, I don't know why he's – and again, we didn't see him in the preseason, so that's probably part of the reason it feels like he's lost in the shuffle. Guy had 88 catches and went to the Pro Bowl last year. Matt, you and I know, have talked about this. To me, he is their starting slot receiver. He's going to get the bulk of the work there. He can also play tight end. He can line up as an H-back. I believe that DK Metcalf is going to get targets every game. I believe Jonnu Smith is going to get targets every game. And then Wes, as far as the rest of the receiving core goes, and you and I have discussed this, and Matt and I have discussed this, the number one reason to me you want a number 2 receiver on this team isn't because you need a number 2 receiver game in and game out. A Brandon Ayuk or the kind of guy that they were, in the running for last year when you had Pickens. It's if something happens. And we saw last year when Pickens got hurt, that was at the very beginning of that stretch in which the Steelers went 0-4 down the stretch, and everyone remembers the running game and the ball being, run down the Steelers' throats, and we get that. But, Pickens was a big loss. To me, I think they're a little bit better. I think they're a little more capable of withstanding that loss. I still think it would be something that would be hard to overcome if you have an injury to your number 1 receiver. I think most teams could say that. Your number 1 guy goes out, you're not going to be the same. You're going to have problems. I also think it's going to be an ensemble effort. So this week, Matt and I were discussing this briefly. This week you go to Seattle. They got Witherspoon. They've got a much better defensive backfield. Maybe this week running backs don't combine for 5 catches. Maybe they combine for 12 catches. Maybe your tight end, Darnell Washington, has 4 catches for 60 yards. I just think that there's enough there. There are enough options, and there is a good enough and a very good offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith and a very obviously not just talented but astute quarterback, clearly, in Aaron Rodgers, who can exploit those things. Somewhere along the line, they've got enough different players and enough diversity of players that somewhere in there, I think, game in and game out, yes, Metcalf's going to get his targets. Yes, Jonnu's going to get his targets. The number 3 hero may change from week to week. The number 4 hero may change from week to week. And in fact, I anticipate that it will change week to week for the Steelers.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the quarterback as much as the roster construction and offensive coordinator.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Yeah.
He's a big component of it. I totally agree, Matt.
Kinger, bigger concern as we stand here today, and obviously it is week 1. A lot of teams will get better. A lot of teams won't look as good as they did the first week of the season. It is the biggest overreaction Monday of the NFL year. Now, prefacing all of that, what's the bigger concern to you here on Monday after week 1 for the Steelers? The run game for the offense or the run game defense and the lack of success that we saw in both of those departments Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, and I'll even add to that protecting the passer, because I think that, when you're shifting around offensive tackles, that's a concern too. That would be up there on my list. If you're asking me to be concerned, I think I would probably say the run defense, but I'll also say this, so two things. I'm hedging my bets here a little bit, but two things. You remember last year, the Ravens in the middle of the season were horrible. They were terrible defensively. They made a couple of moves. They moved Hamilton back to safety and left him there. They stopped roaming him around the field. They put Malik Harrison into the starting lineup, and they got a new guy running the defense, right? And then the talk of how bad the defense was really went away. So, I don't think, week 1 or week 2 is going to tell the story of 17 games in 18 weeks. I just don't think it is. I think the most important thing you can do this time of year is just win. I don't care if you win 3-2. I don't care if you win 100-99. It doesn't matter. Just find a way to win and hopefully build. Now, the stopping the run, that's fresh in our minds, right? Because of what happened at the end of last year, especially in the playoff loss to Baltimore. And then to see a team come out and do that again, it can be discouraging, right? But they're not going to run into a team like this again. They're not going to run into a team schematically or what have you that's going to try to run the ball like this. Now, if next week we're having the same discussion because Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet just ran for 170 on you, then we might be having a slightly different conversation. I think that this is more of a team that in Seattle that the Steelers will have earlier success on. I think they'll get better and better, hopefully against the teams like Baltimore, as Cam gets himself ramped up into perfect shape and becomes that all-pro guy. As Derek Harmon, your first-round pick, again, there's reasons you select guys in the first round, you expect them to make an impact. When guys like that get more into the fold, I think they'll get better against teams like this. But look, they've got weapons on the outside. They've got Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. Well, that's why you've got 3 corners. And that's why you went out and got guys on the defensive line to be able to stop a team that's balanced, wants to run the ball, wants to throw the ball. But if we're having some of these, what are your concern conversations again next week, because those guys ran for 175, that would be a bigger concern to me. But if you're going to ask me if I have to answer it, I would say probably I did not expect to see the Jets. I expected the Jets to have some success. I did not expect them to be able to run like that against the Steelers. That surprised me.
No, I don't think either one of us did either. And we haven't brought it up yet in the show. But if there's 4 aspects of big people play in football, run blocking, run defense, pass protection, pass rush. You kind of alluded to this. I think they lost 3 of those 4. And I know the Steelers' sack numbers weren't there, but I thought they rushed the passer well and just had a hard time putting Justin Fields on the ground behind the line of scrimmage. But the other 3 were losses to me, and you still managed to find a way to win.
Yeah, and you know what? If you really wanted to be harsh, as Clint Hurdle once said about baseball, and it's the same thing in any professional sport, this is not a try hard league. This is a do good league. And so you could say, yeah, they got pressure on Fields, but ultimately they only got him down once.
Right.
So you could even be harsh enough and say, you didn't do what you wanted to do in all 4 of those areas.
Right.
Yeah, and I was surprised. Again, I was surprised that, look, the Jets have number 1 picks in their offensive line, high number 1 picks. Fashanu and Membu went early, 11th and 7th, I think, overall. Mm-hmm. This isn't an offensive tackle you took 28th and hope you can develop. These are guys you're expecting to come in and be instant dominators. And even without Vera Tucker, and that's a big loss for them. They've got a running quarterback, a good stable of running backs, a physical offensive line, a desire to play a certain way. We saw them in the preseason, 3rd and 6. Here you go, Braylon Allen. Yesterday we saw a 3rd and 8 run. They are establishing an identity. Having said that, look, you went out in the offseason and overhauled your defensive line. You knew this was what they were going to do, and that aspect of the game didn't turn out the way you wanted. And so The good news, there's room for improvement, and the good news is there's 17 weeks to do it. So that's kind of the way I look at these early games. As long as you win, you still have the time, and I think the Steelers also have the talent to be able to get better.
Well, one of those talented pieces, certainly Jalen Ramsey. Kinger, the attitude, the edge, drawing a penalty, making the big play at the end of the game. I tell you what, I think Jalen Ramsey is quickly going to rise up the list of Steelers fans' favorite players. For another guy who, he got more preseason action than Aaron Rodgers. That didn't take much. Aaron Rodgers got none. But for a guy who barely got any preseason action, for a guy that got a lot of rest days, I don't even know if you want to call them rest days, but just let's keep him in bubble wrap. We don't need to see any more days.
Yeah, I think it got to that point at camp. Like, we know who this dude is. He's awesome. Right,
good.
Yeah.
To see that immediately translate week one with his new team, with his new defense, man, Kinger, that's exciting. A very exciting starting point, and where Jalen Ramsey can go from there.
Andy Weidel had his press conference before the preseason game. Seems like that's an annual occurrence now. And he first of all, introduced Jalen Ramsey, the discussion of Jalen Ramsey, by calling him a future Hall of Famer. And then I don't want to put words in his mouth. It was he or Mike Tomlin used. I think they used the word violent. Like, this is not a guy coming up just to try to wrestle you to the ground. This is a guy that wants to, inflict, pain to you as he tackles you. I mean, that's just the kind of player he is. And I do believe, I think he's a tone setter. He's had, he's had moments in the past where maybe that's gotten away from him a little bit. But you know what? As Mike Tomlin always says, I'd rather say whoa than sick him. You don't have to say sick him with Jalen Ramsey. He's going to sick him. And he's a great player. And he's 30 years old. He didn't make the Pro Bowl last year, but it had a long run of making the Pro Bowl and being an All-Pro. So, the Steelers are hoping that he's got a couple more good seasons in him. And, he came up with the big hit at the end of the game that helped seal the victory for him. That's what you want your big guys to do. Even if the game doesn't always, going back to something Matt and I have talked about in Mike Tomlin's record in close games, sometimes the game doesn't go the way you want it to go. But when you got a Chris Boswell who can step up in big moments, and Aaron Rodgers who can step up in big moments, a Jalen Ramsey who can step up in big moments, TJ Watt, that is going to help you win a lot of close football games.
Rob, last thing I got for you was I was in shock that Caleb Johnson, I'm sorry. Caleb Williams playing tonight. Wasn't featured or was barely out there with the offense. I kind of expected that. But I didn't expect the running back usage between Gainwell and Warren to have Gainwell out there nearly as much as he was. Did that take you aback at all?
Yeah, this was a question posed to me by a locker room Cub reporter, usually unattributed Schaefer King, my son. I was talking about this. He asked me the same thing. And I said, I really think, first of all, I think they really like Kenneth Gainwell.
They sure seem to.
But yeah, I think he's going to be their third down back, even though Jalen Warren, I think, is an excellent third down back. I just think that was largely dictated by the game. There might have been some packages they wanted to get into early with Kenneth Gainwell, that sort of thing. But I think a lot of it was the Steelers. Let's not forget, they were chasing the game for most of the game.
Yeah.
And I think Gainwell
this wasn't a race to 14 points wins either.
Right. This wasn't, hey, you were out in front 10-0 and they were chasing you.
Mm-hmm.
I think if that had happened, my guess is that we would have seen more of Jalen Warren. So was I surprised by it? I mean, yeah, probably, if you told me that before the game, I'd have probably raised an eyebrow, but I think that given the way the game went, I'm not totally shocked that that's the way the carries went.
Rob King, voice of your Pittsburgh Steelers, kind enough to give us some of his time here on this Victory Monday. Kinger, thanks, partner, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
There he is.
Take care.
The savant, Rob King.
Good stuff.
Good game to get going for him.
Oh, I bet this was a fun one to call, too.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I said this on a different show, that we all have skin in the game, as do the Jets fans and the Jets, media folks, and of course all the coaches and players, obviously. But other than last night's Ravens-Bills game, this might have been as entertaining of a game. If you're a Bears fan, if you're a Rams fan, just sit back and watch it. I mean, this had to be 7 lead changes and, a 60-yarder.
Crazy.
Right. The quarterback thing, going back and forth of their former teams. This was about as entertaining of a game as you're going to get.
First 5 possessions combined for these teams resulted in points.
Yeah.
Just one punt in the first half.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I mean, the number one thing you want your team to do is win.
Of course.
Check
that box.
The number 2 thing you want them to do is entertain.
As a fan, right.
Well, as a fan,
Tomlin doesn't look at it that way.
And
of
I
course,
think people like us and Rob, it's one thing. It's one thing to win boringly. Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when
we've seen a lot of those over the years.
Yes, when you lose boringly, that's the worst possible combination. Yeah. The best is to win and to do so in very entertaining fashion.
Many podcasts I listen to and preview shows were like, man, this is the game I'm looking forward to maybe least. I'm going to watch it because it's the NFL.
Took away the quarterback storyline.
Yeah, right. It's this is the lowest point over-under. It's not – these two teams have not been the most entertaining from an outsider's perspective over the last few years. Yeah, I'll watch it. It's NFL. It's week 1. But it was the total opposite. Maybe both these teams are doing things differently. I was really impressed with the Jets.
I was too.
Yeah.
I think –
they may find a coach. Maybe they found a quarterback. I don't know.
It's always week 1. Things can change. Things will change. But if they win 7 or 8 games, that division's not. Other than Buffalo, that division's not very good either.
Miami was terrible. Right. Oh man,
boy, did you and I
kind of struggle.
Did you and I get that one wrong on our pick'em on Friday?
Yeah, bad.
I think we did pretty good other than that one, but
I was horrible in that
I don't think anybody saw that. You ready for this statistic? You might have seen it. The Colts scored on every single one of their possessions in that game.
I know Daniel Jones did remarkable stuff that never happened before.
Single possession the Colts had, they scored. First time that's happened in an NFL game since 1978.
Wow.
Every single possession, they scored a touchdown or a field goal.
And I don't exactly think the Colts are going to go 17-0. I think that was probably a Miami thing.
Crazy.
Yeah, right.
Crazy. We have got plenty to get into. More thoughts from the Steelers' victory over the Jets when we return. We will do some around the league stuff in hour number 2, obviously. Plenty going on today here on a Victory Monday. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on The Drive here, reacting to the Steelers' victory at MetLife Stadium. It's my first time there at that one, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Still a few of the old barns, the old stadiums that I got to cross off the list. I've been traveling for a few years now with the team and all that, and my game day responsibilities. But first time there at MetLife, huge. I mean, the place is massive.
Really?
It is in the middle of nowhere.
I knew that part.
I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. I thought it was fine. I think it gets a bad rap because it's not SoFi or it's not
it's not
Allegiant in Vegas or Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. Those are kind of like the 3
some stadiums have raised the bar.
Creme de la creme.
Yeah.
Yes, a little bit.
Like Buffalo's is going to be awesome.
Buffalo's
will probably
sounds
be really nice.
pretty cool. There is a small part of me that's hoping it. I think my ideal scenario, if the Steelers don't end up winning the division, is we go to Houston for the wild card round of the playoffs, or heck, I know I'm getting way too talk about week 1 overreactions.
Yeah.
Maybe the Chargers win the West, right? And we go out to LA in January there on the road. Win a road game like one of those type of games, or I guess it could even be a home game. Steelers win the division, win a home game.
Hey, they're sitting 1-0
against
and
the Chargers.
The Ravens aren't. Half the division's 1-0, one's half's 0-1.
And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll
here.
get around to it. Yeah.
There is a small part of me when I was watching that Bills game last night and the atmosphere during the game, and particularly when they came back and everything.
Oh, it's nuts.
There's a small part of me that hopes the Steelers end up in a divisional round game in Buffalo this year.
Oh, I can imagine.
That the environment there is unbelievable. We were there 2 years ago for that playoff game, that Mason Rudolph playoff game. It was it's it's the closest thing the NFL has to a college stadium.
Totally.
It's old. It's dumpy. People are
not
not
a huge city, right?
People are. It's almost like a college town. It's like in the middle of
in the neighborhoods, right? I know.
People just park in the grass and in the Best Buy parking lot and tailgate. Right. Every space of grass and asphalt turns into tailgating lots on those 8 or 9 home day games a year.
Cool.
Nobody goes to the Buffalo Bills games for like a nice night out to sit in the suite and post pictures on their Instagram.
Right,
like they're there to scream and yell.
In a suit and tie.
Exactly right. And watch football. And so, I know we'll talk more about this when we get into Around the League, but I think that the backdrop of the Steelers getting a win and moving to 1-0 when pretty close to, other than Buffalo, like all the other division favorites, if you will, around the AFC lost their opening game.
Yeah, if you're looking big picture and in a 17-game schedule, you have to. It's not like the Pirates are 1-0. Oh, we're set. Obviously it's a big difference. But things went pretty well for the Steelers outside of the game that happened that they were involved in.
Yes, and outside of, I think, potentially, this is another thing that you and I talked about when we kind of did some concerns conversations heading into the regular season. I'm hoping we get better news than I expect on Deshaun Elliott.
Yeah, that one it ruled out quickly. Knee, didn't like the sound of that. Tomorrow's show will be, I'm sure, on top of that. I would think we'd have that news by then. I don't know what the Harrison situation is, but with Herbig, Harrison played some outside and some inside linebacker. I like that he's a Steeler, but you can move on without him. That's not the end of the world. Porter was, hamstring tightness, so that sounded kind of like it's the week 1, similar to cramps.
Getting your body back into football shape.
And again, they're so loaded at corner. I was on a different show and said, if Brandon Eccles, who played well against his old team, is your 4th corner, they haven't had a 4th corner like that since the 70s. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, they're always light at corner, let alone depth. If that's your 4th guy at that position, you're in great shape.
Great shape. Whereas safety might be a little bit different, feeling a little bit thinner amongst that group. And Deshaun Elliott, that
Clark was a good contributor,
he was.
But I also bet, and we'll never know this answer, and I'd have to really study it. When he got injured that early, did that change the Ramsey deployment? Yeah, I'm sure it did.
It had to.
Had to.
It absolutely
If he
did.
was going to follow Wilson all day, you never got to see it,
And along those lines, I think we saw probably a lot more of Jack Sawyer than they planned on.
Oh, I agree.
Heading into week 1.
100%.
He was. I haven't looked at the exact snap count numbers. We'll get into some of that stuff as the week rolls along. But man, I thought he was out there a lot more than I expected, and Roman Wilson was out there a lot less than I expected.
He only played
10 snaps.
So there's some of the offensive stuff I have dug into the snap count that it was Metcalf and it was Austin, and no other receiver played more than 10. So Wilson was one of several that were like 10 and 9, but it was those two were basically 90%ers.
Skoranek scored that opening drive touchdown.
Yeah.
And then I don't think had a target the rest of the game.
No, I don't think so either. And a couple notes there. First off, they scored an opening drive touchdown. Yay. 5 guys caught passes on that drive right off the bat. When we're talking about scripted stuff and spreading it around,
it's a good way to see how the defense is going to deploy against you in different situations.
And I also, Mike Pursuit on a different show I just finished doing, mentioned, we were talking about Roman Wilson. He said, he was only out there 10 snaps, but when it was the last drive and they were in 3 wide and they needed to throw and the run game was an afterthought and Skoranek's the blocker, Wilson's not. It was Wilson out there. So I don't know that it was an indictment. We don't like Wilson. He's only playing 10 snaps like Miller and Skoranek and those guys. But because when we needed to throw, that's the guy we wanted to use. You know what I mean?
That's a great point by you. He was that was one of the things. Like I try and help Rob and Max. I sit right behind them during the game, and as you know, like, they have very specific, detailed things that they're watching for on each snap.
I'm sure,
so they can call the game. It's not the same as just sitting there and watching it and taking it all in.
Right.
So I try and kind of, get some different nuggets and things that you can notice and stuff like that might not be forefront ball carrier, tackler every single play.
Yeah. The stuff they have to construe to the audience.
And then early into the third quarter, like, we went to break and like I tapped Max on the shoulder and I was like, is it just me or have we barely seen Roman Wilson?
I haven't.
And he was like, he's like, that hadn't even really clicked with me. But then at the end of the game, he kind of turned around and was like, you see 10's out there now, like when it matters.
When it's throwing time. Right.
I think that's a good sign for him.
Yeah, he's
in the macro, in the big
he's
picture.
The three. I think it's a really good sign for Austin. I mean, they've been telling us he's the two. I mean, the wide receiver coach said he's our number 2.
Yeah.
Well, he is number 2. I mean, that's very obvious.
And he said that back in June at
months
OTAs.
ago.
I think.
That was months ago, right?
Yeah.
But I think Wilson is the 3 when it's time to throw.
Agreed. Hour in the books. Another hour to go. We'll have more on the victory over the Jets. We will start hour number 2, though, taking a look around the league. If you thought that Colts stat, listen, Matt's the stats guy, Matt's the analytics guy. All right. But that doesn't mean that I can't, bring some numbers and some things to the forefold from time to time too. You thought that Colts stat about first team to score on all their possessions since the late 70s was wild. I've got a Bengals number that might even be crazier when we get into that.
That was a pretty kooky game.
A very kooky game,
yeah.
17-16. I think that's the game that a lot of people expected the Steelers and the Jets to play.
Yes.
That ended up playing out there in Ohio. We'll get to everything around the AFC North, everything that happened in the NFL. We've got an exciting Monday night game to preview tonight as well. Plenty to get to as we roll along in hour number 2. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson. It's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Hour number 2 of The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. All is well that ends well. And, of course, it was a victory for your Pittsburgh Steelers at MetLife Stadium to kick off the season. A little bit opposite than, that it was still Chris Boswell heroics, Matt.
Man.
Not quite like it was in Atlanta last year for the opener where he had all 18 points.
Totally relying on him, right.
And a crucial punt at the end, too, to get you out of that stadium. But you know what?
Special teams were big, though.
You have to remind me of this. Special teams were massive. Good starting field position for both teams throughout the day for the most part. The new dynamic kickoff.
I love it.
I do too.
Yeah, I threw a tweet out last night. I'm like, this new kickoff rule is growing on me. It's just action.
Just a few years ago that NFL teams were almost always starting their drives at the 20.
Yeah.
Now, more often than not, they're going to be starting them at the 35.
There's definitely going to result in more points.
Massive.
I mean, that's a big deal. That's a first down and a half you don't have to get.
Massive,
right.
massive difference.
And more than anything, you just don't go get a beer or use a bathroom during the kickoff. It's like, I'm going to watch this because a lot's going on. And real quick, special teams were great for the Steelers yesterday, and maybe the phase that won them the game as much as anything, or more than anything. I mean, the Gainwell strip was humongous, and the Boz 60. I mean, those are the 2 biggest plays possibly. But I am a little worried going back to last year. Kickoffs have not been their friend. I mean, I think 99 or 9 out of 10 times the Steelers have a special team advantage, and Danny Smith has a lot to do with that. Mike Tomlin has a lot to do with that. Their roster construction of keeping core guys has a lot to do with that. Boswell's awesome. That has a lot to do with it.
He's a serial killer, man.
He's a serial killer. But kickoff coverage and kickoff returns are going to need a little work. And they matter now more than they did. It's not just touchback, kneel.
I would say they've mattered more now than they have in a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. Do you think, quick question for you.
Yes.
Do you think when Halloween rolls around here in, 6 or 7 weeks, you think the Steelers would lend us Chris Boswell jerseys to wear one day in here and we can both dress up as serial killers?
I like it.
Like Halloween week?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to get in Reagan's ear.
Jason mask and all that.
Yeah. We'll talk to Reagan, talk to the good people at the Steelers Pro Shop, see if maybe we can dress as Chris Boswell as serial killers Halloween week here at some point on the drive.
So our guy TV sent me this, that it was only an 18.6 touchback rate in week 1, which is drastically down, and
that's a seismic
a lot
change.
more to watch. And there's a lot of people just putting whoever at kickoff returner.
A lot more benefit for the offense, and
there'll be people breaking big ones, and pay attention to kickoffs.
A kind of another. I can hear Arthur Moats yelling about the NFL doing another thing to make it more difficult on defenses across the league.
It's definitely happening.
It's always about the offense, baby. Certainly wasn't an offensive masterclass in the AFC North, in Cleveland, where the Browns fall to the Bengals 17-16. Cincinnati gets out of there with a victory. They have got plenty that they're going to discuss and want to harp on today in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Even more so than us, like, hey, win's a win. That's all that matters. But you still got, wrinkles to iron out. They're really having that conversation today in Cincinnati. Matt, the number that I teased for you.
Oh, yeah.
Was the Bengals had 7 yards in the second half.
I know.
Of total offense and still won that game. I tried.
It's remarkable.
I spent probably 15, 20 minutes looking for the stat of when was the last time an NFL team had less than 10 yards in the second half and still won.
Yeah.
And I could, it
wasn't like they were winning 40-0 at the half and just,
It's such an outlier that there's not even any baseline for how often do NFL teams have less than 10 yards in the
does not compute
in the second half. Does not compute. Just the Bengals defense. Hey, nice start from that perspective for them.
So that game, in a way, I mean, I think a lot of folks that know what they're talking about looked at the AFC and thought the two teams that are worst off this year are the Jets and especially the Browns. I can't even imagine them guys going to the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. Now, neither team got a win, but I think you're feeling better about your team if you're a Browns or Jets fan today than you did a week ago. I mean, they were competitive against good teams. I think the Jets, as mentioned, they have good players and are definitely trending the right direction.
You can get some type of that was maybe the best game Justin Fields has ever played in the NFL.
Yeah, I think it was.
So I'm not going to say he's got to play his best game of his career 17 times this season, but if you can get,
but he's gotten better every year and maybe got better again.
If he can stay in that relative zone, relative stratosphere of where he was, that's the biggest win of the day for the Jets.
Absolutely. And I thought Cleveland. I know that the Bengals really struggle in week one, whether they play their guys or not, apparently. But the Browns had a good game plan. They got after Burrow in a big way. They really limited those awesome receivers. And the weaknesses of the Bengals looked like weaknesses. Defense, O-line, things that have been a problem lately. That was not a great Browns offense they faced, too,
Certainly not. In fact, probably.
They were pretty fortunate to get out of there with a W.
7 yards in the second half.
Unbelievable.
They were fortunate to get out of there with a W, but for a team that in the last 5 years had been 1-9 in their first 2 games, I'm sure they're not apologizing for a win there. They will certainly take it.
Right.
And much like we've talked about with the Steelers, same church, different pew. Plenty to improve upon.
Yep.
But you'll take the win in that regard.
And it is similar. A win's a win, and that's all. There's those two teams that are 1-0 in the division.
You mentioned, Matt, that first time in 17 one-score games, Patrick Mahomes takes an L in that regard Friday night in a duel, I think, really, between Herbert and Mahomes might be the best way to describe it.
We saw one last night, but we saw one Friday night, too. 2 primetime games where big-time AFC quarterbacks were blow for blow. Who gets the ball last? I hate to, I'm not trying to kill the mood because I'm much happier with the Steelers quarterback situation than in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still some really good ones in the AFC that are
it seems like they're all in the AFC, man.
Yeah,
what are we doing? Can we get some of these guys in a different conference?
And Herbert might be knocking on the door of being with those Burrow, Lamar types.
Yeah.
That was a huge win for the Chargers.
Not loving that. Certainly not loving that. Speaking of a guy who's knocking on the door of one of those types, I thought it was an impressive year 2 debut for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, they ran the ball well. The Giants hung around, but I thought Washington did what they had to do, business trip type of situation. He's quite good as well. I think they're in good shape with him, obviously.
I thought one of the funniest things of the NFL weekend, maybe we can add this to our things to toss out there every Monday. Cam Scattaboo had an absolute signature Cam Scattaboo play that was for a 5-yard gain. And it was all over social media. Look at Scattaboo running like Mike Allstott, and it was a 5-yard gain.
5-yard gain, but well earned. Yes,
very well earned. Very well earned. A team that I think you're higher on than most, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
Quarterback that you're higher on than most, and Trevor Lawrence. I know it's the Carolina Panthers, one of those proverbial worst teams in the league. But with some crazy stuff that happened there with a lengthy weather delay as well, too.
Yeah, strange.
Thought it was a encouraging showing for Jacksonville in their first game of this Liam Cohen era.
Absolutely. And that one I might be as worried about the bad team as I am excited about the good team, the winner. Carolina was kind of a disaster.
Man.
And I thought Young took a step back, and they were pretty brutal on offense. But
You have 2 interceptions, is that right?
he just never looked comfortable at all. Nothing went well on offense for that team, or really on
2 interceptions.
either side of the ball. I mean, that was a pretty dominant performance by the Jags. But I did consider putting the Jags in the wild card when I picked my 7 teams. Left them just out. I put the Chargers in instead, which looks all right too. But good, real promising first step for Jacksonville. Maybe they could win that division. I mean, Houston. I thought Houston was going to win that game, and that was some problematic stuff for them too.
It was, and again, it is so early. Like it's very easy to do that.
Let's not get crazy.
I just did it in the last segment. Like, what if the Chargers win the division? There's 16 games to play.
There is. And I kind of threw this out there. Like, if it's any other sport and you lose the opener, you don't think twice. They had a bad day.
It's
don't worry
baseball.
about it.
You probably got a game the next day or something like that.
But you're not allowed to have a bad day in the NFL.
No. And especially, again, week 1 when everybody has been hyper-focused on this since July when training camp opened. It is the
magnifying glass.
The second Monday in September, which is always the Monday after, the first Sunday of the league season, is always the biggest overreacting day.
Oh yeah,
certainly.
Yeah.
Matt, we both. And this is one of the things I want to kind of keep track on throughout the year. We both survived our survivor pool picks in week 1, and as they often are, man, Vegas right on the money. Cardinals 20-13 over the Saints. That was a half point off the spread there. And then Broncos.
Wasn't an easy run for him either.
No, it was not.
A pretty close game. Same with Denver.
Yeah,
Nix was struggling.
So he was struggling. That was I started him over Kyler Murray in one of my fantasy leagues, and I was regretting that. But Broncos 8.5-point favorites, 8-point win over Tennessee. Liked what we saw from Cam Ward, though.
Yeah, he's showing some flashes. Yeah. Tennessee hung around. They did some good stuff in a really difficult environment. I'm sure Denver had to be the eliminator pick of the week. I mean, especially at home. Their record
probably
at home early.
60-70% of people in survivor pools took
A lot of
Denver.
people were sweating it, including myself. I mean, the pool we did, everyone got 2 entries just so it goes longer. I took the Steelers, I took Denver, but neither was a sure bet.
No, it was not. But all is well that ends well.
Yeah.
Seattle, Matt, tough loss at home to open their season against division arch rival San Francisco.
We'll get into them heavy, but I've already started reeling on peeling this game. There's some good for the Niners. Purdy played really well. They lost Kittle right off the bat. I think Jennings got hurt in the game too, but McCaffrey was back 100%. That was big. Bosa was awesome. But just to kind of tease some Seahawks stuff, they're kind of an odd team right now. I think their defense is borderline awesome. First of all, they really get after you, the quarterback. Their secondary is a lot better. Rob mentioned that it's not Sauce and everybody else, so they got a lot of secondary pieces. But their offense is crazy. I mean, Smith and Jigba got like every target, and they still don't really block anybody. Darnold doesn't do real well under pressure, and that showed up, and they were still in it, but they had 22 minutes of time of possession in that game. And they were still in it at the end because the defense, even though they're on the field all the time,
defense
kept
was
them
very
around.
good.
But they got a lot of issues on an offense, and man, I mean, Smith and Jigba had like a 60% target share. It's insane,
nuts.
Yeah.
And I think he's a nice player.
Oh, he's a real nice player.
He's not Jamar Chase,
right?
Or Justin Jefferson getting a 60%.
25%'s a lot. He was at like 59.
And now tough sledding for Seattle, having to come across the coast for a 1 o'clock kickoff. Which, as I told you last week, if you don't have Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson in their prime in Seattle, that's
different world.
That's a tough proposition for those West Coast teams.
I heard today the Steelers are favored. I think it's like 2 or 2.5.
Is that what it opened at?
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. That sounds about right. And speaking of that department as well too, nice debut for my boy Geno Smith in the
played real well
in the silver and black, baby.
Yeah.
360 passing yards. Sorry, Seattle. Have fun with Sam Darnold. Speaking of a team that played very well, I was ecstatic about this. We had live TV on the charter flight home.
Oh, okay.
Which
is that rare?
Yeah, it's not all the time.
Not all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes
watching games.
Sometimes there's live TV. Sometimes you got to hook up to the Wi-Fi and try and stream it off your phone, which can work, but sometimes it can break up a little bit, and it's still on your phone or your. But we had in the headrests on the plane flying home, Matt, we had live TV available. I was able to get the Packers-Lions game and watch a sizable chunk of that while we were waiting for the plane to be loaded up.
Green Bay's
and
good.
My goodness, is Green Bay good? And
Yeah.
we barely saw Mike. I mean, he had a sack, and at the end,
He made an impact.
At the end there,
But
they
it
clearly
was
had
on
him
a
out
snap
there
count,
in
yeah.
passing situations. But man, the
Defense
Packers
was good even when he wasn't on the field.
That's what I mean.
And they had a
Very
lot
good.
of chunk stuff on offense.
They handcuffed the
I
Lions
always
all
tell
afternoon.
myself, as you mentioned on this Monday, don't overreact too much on this first Monday in September, blah, 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 blah. But Detroit fans might be a little concerned. I mean, you lost both coordinators. They got pretty much manhandled by a division foe. One game, not time to get crazy, but I could envision, I'm not saying I'm predicting it, that Detroit window that has really been the best they've been in the Super Bowl era might be closing, not opening. You know what I mean?
It happens.
I mean, it happens
so
quick, right? I mean, you get 3 or 4 good years to take a shot at these things, and they didn't quite get there, you know?
Particularly when you don't have a unicorn at quarterback.
Exactly. That's what I was going to think, too. Like,
When-
Allen and Lamar aren't going away.
As long as they're playing the way they are, those teams are in a window.
Yes.
Mahomes in a window.
Yeah,
If
that's a
Herbert gets to
bigger
that
window.
level, if Jaden Daniels gets to that level.
Yep. But when you
you've
start
got-
getting
when you've got
people
good but not
pillaged,
great,
yes.
You know,
And the O-line's not the best in the league. It's the 12th best in the league. And your coordinators aren't top 5 at their position. They're top 20 or, it's like, well, okay.
they lost a lot.
And
they
the
lost a
division's
lot
awful,
from last year.
Which
and
we'll see tonight, too.
That's-
The North is tough.
Real tough, no doubt. We'll talk about that game in just a few minutes. But how about Buffalo and Baltimore last night, Matt? 41
Tremendous
to
football
40. The Bills were down 15 points 2 separate times in the second half. Found a way to win. Tremendous football game, as you mentioned. This is just between me and you. We'll cut the microphones here. I don't want to say this out
don't
loud,
listen,
but
guys. Hold your earmuffs.
It might be the 2 best teams in the AFC last night, and that might not be the last time we see those 2 teams play
No.
a very meaningful game.
That may turn into a ridiculous rivalry. Going back to last year, it's a close game, 2 unbelievable quarterbacks. All respect to the Chiefs. Those 2 are scarier right now. I mean, they just are. They might be the 2 best teams in the league, period. I mean, a couple things, obviously. The Henry fumble was massive. I mean, it's kind of like the Gainwell causing the fumble, but this is just back and forth, and one team that makes one play that's enough to put you over. But I heard this on the way here listening to a podcast that when they went up 15, right? That's when it looked like times were done.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens were averaging 9.7 yards per play. Wow. Every time they snapped the ball, they basically got a first down.
That's insane.
I mean, the offense is ridiculous with that
insane.
group. I mean, we know Lamar was making plays. Henry's ripping off unbelievable runs. I'm a little worried about Buffalo's defense for this conversation, but when you got Allen and you got Lamar, it's nuts. Now, Harbaugh's under a lot of scrutiny, and I think he should be. That 4th and 3, you can't take it out of Lamar's hands and hand it to Allen. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're on your own 1-yard line. I mean, at that point in the game, when these quarterbacks have it figured out, you can't take it out of this guy's hands that you have that's equal player to that guy, and they're way better than everybody else on the planet at the moment, and just say, well, we'll hope, and all they have to do, and a field goal beats you.
Right.
So I say a lot of really, really, really positive things about the Ravens, but getting over this hump is a little on Harbaugh. I mean, they have not been able to win those type of games, usually in the playoffs. He tightens up a little bit. He makes some decisions really late in games that are 50-50 games, and you make them 49-51 to the opponent. That's enough.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And again, especially when you're Baltimore and it's like we've been in this window now for a couple years.
They're awesome.
Like,
Right.
Our roster almost has no holes or weaknesses.
Right.
We got a quarterback.
Andre Hopkins is out there catching one-handed touchdowns. Like, forgot they got at him.
Unbelievable. I was cracking up a bunch. Chiefs fans all over Twitter were screaming about that. They were like, this guy couldn't make a catch in the Super Bowl. He's falling over his own feet, but he makes that catch in Buffalo.
Right.
Yeah, you're right, Chiefs fans. You've had it so rough. I do.
I know.
I do
Everyone's crying for you
apologize. I'm
guys,
sure
right?
that was very difficult for you to witness.
But an amazing football game.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I don't know if tonight's Monday Night Football will live up to Sunday Night Football.
We've had some
Matt.
good Sunday, or had some good primetime ones.
We
so
have,
far.
we have, and hopefully that will continue. A little a little division rivalry, another one tonight in prime time. Two teams that the Steelers will see this season.
Oh, good point.
One of them in Minnesota that we'll see here in just a couple of weeks. We'll talk a little bit about that game when we return on the other side. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Driving along here on a Monday, a victory Monday, of course, for your Pittsburgh Steelers as they take down the Jets at MetLife Stadium, 34-32. A high-scoring, close Steelers win, just like we all predicted.
Of course.
We all thought that it would be the second highest point total of the week, that they would easily surpass that over-under number. My goodness, but that is the classic any given Sunday NFL adage, right? Like,
oh, man.
Even with the week one weird things happen caveat aside, like weird things happen every week across the National Football League. And that's why we love it so much. That's why, we tune in. That's why Browns fans every year, they know Charlie Brown is going to take the football mat and pull it out from underneath their feet.
Swing.
But they're still gonna swing every single time.
So it's funny, like I am a believer that weird things happen in week one, because I definitely believe coaches don't have tape to go off of. Game planning's much more difficult super early in the season. Whoever plays the Jets next at least has this game to go off of what this coaching staff wants to do. So I think there's less surprises. And I definitely, I know in week one, the players are not in as good condition. I mean, that's just a fact. None of these guys have played a full game since the day they got eliminated last year. That being said, I think you could pull out week 12 and put it in week one and be like, that was weird too. I mean, every week's weird. It's a great league to watch. There's always stuff that goes on, Yes. Didn't see that coming, right? There's always an upset,
There always. And that is, most of these games, week to week are one-score spreads.
Yeah, that's what they want.
Even when it seems to be lopsided, it is why the National Football League has such a hold.
They're pretty good at this thing.
They are pretty good at this thing and turning this model of clearly the most popular, absolutely proven the most financially lucrative league in the entire world, not just in the United States, but
and I don't mean to rain on
world.
Pittsburgh's parade, because everyone in Pittsburgh is happy as could be, and they should be, and you and I are in a great mood. But if Boswell's kick doesn't go through, it's a 60-yarder. It's still a low. I mean, he's not going to make that 10 out of 10 times. That's not a chip shot. Just imagine what the narrative would be today, though. It'd be like, oh, Rodgers played well, but this team lost to the Jets. They're the worst team in the league, and
the defense still stinks.
Fire
all
everyone.
The same problems
the
they had
line's
last
terrible.
year.
The defense is horrendous. Just that one play. If he mishits it just the smidge, the whole game is totally different way of thinking through for many people.
And I was going to save this to bring up like Tuesday or Wednesday when maybe we needed to kill a couple minutes, but you just led me right there, so let's do it.
Let's do it.
Can we stop? We do this weird thing, and by we I mean people that do football media like you and I.
Yeah.
Football just fans. I think people that are like executives and coaches. The whole football ecosystem does this thing of downplaying special teams. I think particularly kickers, and where they kind of slot into the pantheon of greatness for their franchises or for the league. Right? I mean, is there one kicker in league history that's in the Hall of Fame? Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think Tucker will go.
I think
John
Vinatieri
Stenner
might eventually.
I think he will too. I hope
just
he doesn't.
Because
right, yeah.
The all-time league leader in
Yeah,
points,
yeah.
and had some big Super Bowl moments.
Right. But it's very few select companies
that
will go in the next 20 years even, probably.
That is a bass backwards logic.
Yeah.
Because when you have someone like Tucker, when you have someone like Chris Boswell,
remember how awful it was to play against Tucker? They'd get past midfield. It's like, well, they're getting points.
Yeah, don't tell me kickers can't be in the Hall of Fame. Don't tell me, and
what Bosworth's doing is Hall of Fame-esque right now.
Absolutely. And like every time someone suggests maybe, kickers have too much of an impact on the game now. Maybe we should make it more. Maybe we should shrink the goal. In these off-season conversations where people are looking for things to talk about, that's something that comes up every year.
Yeah,
guys.
My buddy's got a theory: kickers are too good now. which I get. You know, like you watch that Jags game, the guy hits a 70-yarder.
But I'm not doing this to like point out your buddy, but the same people that will tell you kickers are too good now and something has to change will also tell you, hey, they don't belong in the Hall of Fame. They're just a kicker. They don't tackle. They don't block.
Right.
We gotta find a common ground here. We gotta find a middle point because these guys are crazy important.
And they are incredibly good
in the NFL,
right
where
now.
every game for the most part is a one-score game.
Yes.
Don't tell me that you just love the kicker when he hits a 60-yarder. Like, scream and yell about how important this guy is and how he deserves more credit.
And I'll be honest, I mean, like the 15th best kicker in the league now would have been by far the best kicker in 1980 or 90 or whatever, too. Now, I also believe that there's still somewhat of a kicker shortage. It's less true now than it was 5-10 years ago, but there's 3 to 5 teams that don't have a guy. Like, the Steelers have Boz, and he's up here, and he's awesome, and blah, blah, blah. And most people are just really happy with theirs. They're in this bulk area. But you're one of those teams that doesn't have one. You're one of those 3 to 5 that every Tuesday you're bringing in a new guy or churning out, or I'm not sure I can trust them. You know how much different that is than having Boz? And all your coaching decisions and, that was points over the course of a year difference. That
was the Jets last year.
Mm-hmm.
They were like 1-7 in one-score games, I think it was, or 1-6, something like that.
Their kicker made 71% of his kicks.
And they had the worst field goal percentage in the league.
Yeah.
Imagine if he would have made 90% of his kicks instead of 70-some. Maybe
just be average.
Maybe they're 7-10 last year, which isn't great, but it's not like, the stinking Jets, Here they go again.
Right. I mean, that's a big thing. I was saying this on another show, too. Just watching this Jets team, you're reminded they do have quite a few really good players. I mean, Quinton Williams is a stud.
Oh, he's outstanding.
A lot of guys that are real high-quality players that if this staff can get average kicking and not lead the league in penalties and not be dysfunctional, you probably win 6, 7, 8 games and are a lot more competitive. And this staff looks like they're competent,
There's... Again, the way that they lost is frustrating, but I think if you're a Jets fan, there is a lot to be optimistic. I think they'll be singing more of a positive tune in New York. Now that actually sounds dumb when I say it out loud because
they don't do that very often.
They don't do that. It's New York. All they do is talk about how much everybody sucks all the time. The Yankees. It's been 10 years since the Yankees won a World Series. They suck. Aaron Judge sucks. The Knicks suck. Everybody sucks. I think you should be. There's a lot of reasons for. They should be speaking more optimistically on Jets Nation radio than I think we would have if the Steelers would have lost that game today.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, speaking of that kicker shortage that you mentioned, it's so weird to me. Like, I looked up here to see if Ben Sauls had landed anywhere. He's still out there. And, like, after the college – I know he's a lefty. After the college career that he had, the preseason that he had, this kicker shortage that you rightfully mentioned around the league, but – all it
Give
takes
him
is
a week or two.
One person
to bad games in a row, right?
Some special teams coordinator to start to feel the heat and need to do something different.
I mean, unless you're one of the elite guys like Boz, you have 2 or 3 bad games in a month.
See ya.
Oh man, now your seat's on fire.
Even when Boz had that season in 2018,
I give the Steelers a lot of credit for sticking with him.
Every week, everybody wanted to cut him. I do too. I was one of those people.
I think half the organization league would have let him go.
Probably moved on.
Yeah.
They should have known. I mean, when he had James Harrison standing there at his tryout talking about, you've heard that story, right? You heard that story? When they brought Chris Boswell in for his tryout, and then ultimately, was it from the Jets practice school? I
don't know where he came from.
I forget exactly. Giants, maybe? Was he with the Giants? But however it worked out, when he had his tryout with the Steelers in the practice facility, James Harrison was standing there watching him. Because the Steelers had some kicking issues, and Debo was like, "I'm sick of this."
Yeah, our guys stink, right?
And when Boz,
they were on that guinea pig wheel for a long time. It's a terrible place to be.
And when Boz was having his audition, his tryout, whatever it was, James Harrison was standing there right next to him and was like, "If you miss one of these, I'm gonna make you wash my back in the shower." I can't believe you haven't heard this story before.
Boz, it rings a bell, actually.
Boz told it, I think, on Christian Kuntz's podcast, I want to say, or something.
Okay.
And then, like,
Can you handle pressure?
A couple months later, like, Mike Tomlin was asked about it on, like, the Pivot podcast, and he told the story and talked about it as well, too. From that moment, they should have known this Boswell guy's nails. He's good. He's fine.
If he's not shanking them left and right at this point.
Because I guess Mike Tomlin was standing there, too, and was like, Boz, no matter what happens, do not wash his back, all right? Like, I don't care how good you are. There's no coming back from that, all right? Do not, no matter what happens.
But what a find. I mean, he's an all-time great Steeler.
He is a Hall of Honor guy.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
He's a Hall of Honor Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yep.
And
That's not an easy hall to get into.
I think very soon, actually, like maybe this month, will become the all-time leading scorer in franchise history.
I think he's knocking on the door.
Right on Gary Anderson's heels.
Yeah.
Like right there. So that'll happen this season, definitely. Might even happen this month. Matt, Monday Night Football tonight. Vikings.
Yeah, I don't have a
Bears.
strong feeling on it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping Caleb Williams' career gets back on track, and McCarthy's like a rookie, so the two quarterbacks are really interesting to me.
That's, I think the storyline is much along these same lines of like week one overreactions.
Mm-hmm.
Either in Chicago or Minnesota tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah, it's not going to be great.
One of these quarterbacks is going to get skewered.
Yep.
Like if it's
unless it's like Lamar and Allen last night. There's
sure.
nowhere to, no arrows to shoot at.
One of the teams wins 38-35 or something like that, and both quarterbacks play well. If Caleb Williams struggles, it's going to be like, here we go again. This guy isn't going to get it. It's not going to click.
Bears having a quarterback in my life.
Bears just can never have a quarterback, and this isn't the guy to break the curse.
Yep.
If J.J. McCarthy goes out there and struggles, and I think you're right, he might get a little bit more of a leash,
At least it's his first start.
Because it's his first start,
right.
Albeit in year two, when he
Caleb's
essentially
first pick in the draft too.
First pick in the
right.
draft.
Daniels.
But you know what? J.J. McCarthy was a top 10 guy.
Oh yeah.
And they just had a great year last year, won 14 games, and then let Sam Darnold sail off for this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I think Sam Darnold is walking into Canton one day, obviously.
No.
But he won 14 games for that team last year. This one, to me, is the quarterback storyline, obviously huge, and just which fan base is going to be screaming about their signal caller tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I think that's 100% it. And it's a good matchup, too. I mean, I'm excited to see this. Johnson, the new head coach, is the hire, and I totally understand that. I would have been all over him too, what I know about him, to run my team. But it's a little different calling plays when Dan Campbell's your head coach and you got all these good players and things are in place in Detroit, as opposed to being the guy on game day and prep and being the CEO and all those things. So a lot of guys, including the great Dick LeBeau, hit their head on the ceiling of being awesome play caller coordinators and not head coaches.
There's nothing
totally different skill set.
Nothing wrong with that.
Totally different skill set. There's a lot of great head coaches that weren't that good at coordinators. Right. So I am really interested to see where the Bears are at, and I think the Vikings are a super interesting team too. I mean, they made a lot of changes. They went out and got a lot of big people to add to the interior of both their lines. Is that going to pay off or not? And Justin Jefferson's just a blast to watch. Period.
100%.
Yeah.
No Jordan Addison for the first three games. Reminder for Minnesota.
Thielen's back home though.
Thielen is back. Yep. And this is a fun one. These early season divisional matchups are always fun.
Yeah.
Because it's a swing. I mean, it's almost like a game that counts like in the standings, and you're either going to be a game ahead or you're going to be a game behind right off the bat. Like we're not both going to be 0-1. We're not both going to be 1-0. One of us is already going to have a 1-game lead and a head-to-head tiebreaker over the other. In an
ultra competitive division.
And
I don't
what
think
I was going to say,
in that division.
Did you see that stat that they broadcast last night during, or I guess afternoon, depending, during the Lions-Packers game, that the NFC North had the highest ever win percentage of a division last year?
Really?
But it was also the first time in league history that a division got 3 teams into the playoffs, and all of them went one and done.
Huh, okay.
Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay all lost their first playoff game. Now, Detroit had a bye, but still, they all went one and done. They went 0-3 in the playoffs.
Huh. They'll probably bring it up tonight, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Minnesota 1.5-point favorites.
In Chicago.
I'd
probably take the Vikes.
I think so, too.
I think I trust the head coach a lot. I think they're really well coached.
More continuity there. Yeah. A better team last year.
The thing I keep harping on with this game is Flores is such a pain in the butt to play against. It's so unorthodox. It's so aggressive.
Especially when he's got this much time. He's been preparing for Caleb Williams for 2.5 weeks.
And Williams loves taking sacks. I mean, that's the thing that they're trying to get out of. Johnson is trying to get that out of his DNA.
I'm glad. For those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube, all right, if you're just like if you're an audio podcast only listener of The Drive, which that's how I consume like 90% of my podcasts.
Me too, yeah.
So I get it. But you gotta check on YouTube in the second hour to see that look on Matt's face. Loves taking sacks.
He sure does. Going back to USC, and oh man,
he defines that sacks are a quarterback stat thing.
It's him.
Huh?
Is it you or is it me? No, it's you.
Certainly. Matt, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I do think we didn't really kind of dig into some of those concerns for the Steelers from yesterday.
Yeah, we need to.
And we've got, obviously,
big.
4 more shows this week. But let's get into a little bit of that in our final segment on the other side to shut this thing down. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Down the home stretch here on this Victory Monday edition of The Drive, as we would rather do here. I mean, it's been more positive conversation. It's been more looking on the bright side of life, as Monty Python would say.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt, obviously there are always concerns, even in a victory, and certainly in week 1, where nobody is. Even the teams that had the best performances are not perfect.
There was a lot of not perfect.
There was a lot of not perfect.
Yeah.
And so not to really kind of put you on the spot here, because, again, we got plenty of time the rest of the week to dive deeper into some of these things. But what's the forefront of your mind? If you could pick one thing this week that they're going to get moving in the right direction in the home opener against Seattle.
That I'm confident that they'll get better at?
Not even necessarily that you're confident, just of all the concerns,
about.
Which one are you highlighting right now that you would like to see start to improve Sunday?
Okay. So, I mean, I guess there's really 3 things that worry me just off this game alone. Steelers' run game is the most concerning to me.
I think that's the easy answer.
Yeah. I mean, how often have we talked over the last couple months that can't be at 3.9 a carry? You got to get up to,
4.3.
We don't need to get crazy even. Just get 20th. And they got worse, I mean, and it wasn't a real run-centric game plan or game script, but I bet they would have liked to have done more of it. We mentioned with Rob, there's a lot of Gainwell out there, a lot of third down situation, but their success rate on early downs was really bad, especially running the ball. They didn't get ahead of the chains. They didn't have very many nice runs, and I did think there was a stretch where Warren was starting to heat up a little bit, and then they kind of got away from it. There was 4 or 5 runs in a row. It's like, okay, they're starting to build on something here, and then they kind of got away from it. But the protection is the same people, and that was pretty problematic too.
It really
was. I mean, it was not like him holding the ball. They weren't quarterback sacks.
No,
I mean,
they were not.
They were not.
That's an important thing to note.
Right.
And
he can't be getting hit like that.
It's also too just the inconsistency of it from the offensive line.
Yeah, Broderick Jones was terrible. Consistency is not his thing.
He is so hard to evaluate for me, Matt, because I don't know, maybe I'm being a little too generous. 8 out of 10 snaps are fine.
Yeah.
8 out of 10 snaps, you don't notice them.
Yeah. Position, it doesn't matter.
Which
it's
is
like
good.
Corner. Yeah.
But it's just like corner.
Yeah.
But it's not even the other 2 out of 10 snaps, man, they're not even C's or D's.
Right. I mean, what was that?
They're F's.
Yeah.
They are 0. They're not 5 or 6 out of 10. Mm-hmm. They're a 0 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's the strangest part to me, because there'll be a stretch of 4, 5, 6, 7 plays on a drive, and you'll be like, looking sharp, looking good, confident, moving well. And then that 9th play happens, and it's the complete.
It must be in his head.
It's not just bad.
Because
he
can do it.
Terrible rep.
Right. It's not like he's a 7th-round pick that has heavy feet and someone across his face is faster than him. Just get out athlete.
And that he doesn't have like he. Make no mistake about this, because I know a lot of people, and I'm not saying it's unfair. I know he's getting crushed by a lot of people, but he's got a highlight tape too.
Oh yeah,
it's just the low light tape is outshadowing it at this point, and that can't happen.
It can't happen. I mean, again, maybe this is just one off. Maybe the rest of the games go fine. I mean, I don't think you consider benching them or any of that point or at this point. And the players he were playing against were better than people might realize. There were a lot of up-and-coming first-round picks, and they even lined Quinnen Williams over him and got a sack. But, I mean, you just can't have the negatives. And just across the board, I mean, Rodgers getting out quick. The average depth of target's really low on purpose because Rodgers is good at it, but it's also because they knew they couldn't drive the ball down the field because they weren't expecting people to hold up in protection. They made adjustments to move the football accordingly, but it's true for all quarterbacks, but especially a 41-year-old that isn't super mobile. there's going to be times on 3rd and 8 you're going to have to drive the football and you can't just throw screens and things. He's going to get hit at this rate. I mean, that in Seattle, it might be better pass rush team than this. And I mean, that's a really impressive Jets team. I keep praising them, but that's not the toughest defense you're going to face.
Absolutely, absolutely not.
I mean, there's a lot of other good ones out there. There's a lot of good D linemen in this league.
You might face a couple better defenses this month.
Yeah, Seattle's is loaded. I mean,
loaded, and then the one you're going to face in Dublin that we're going to see tonight
nasty.
has been pretty nasty over the last couple years. As well too. That's where I'm at.
It's not all O-line, but
No.
the O-line concerns are real on a Monday morning after that win.
Still
run game and protection.
Still there.
Yeah.
And it's one data point out of 17.
Yep.
But those concerns that we had discussed a little bit going into the season, I think are certainly still there. Matt, to get us out of here today, Power Grid Janitor tweets us.
Oh.
And says, how would you diagnose our defensive woes from yesterday? Just first game of the season, some untimely injuries during that game. Was it poor execution and bad preparation? Also, side note, it was hard not to jump out of your chair and holler after Jalen Ramsey laying down the boom.
No, that was awesome, yeah.
You should have seen Max Starks' reaction in the broadcast booth.
I can only imagine.
Woo!
That's awesome. So the good, and that's the perfect play to exemplify that, was there were some timely big plays late by stars. I mean, there absolutely was. But down-to-down consistency against the run, I thought, was extremely, extremely poor. And you can blame this team, I don't know what they're doing against read option. It wasn't the same as not playing it well against Baltimore in the playoff game. To me, this was bodies getting moved backwards. Cam Hayward was the top of the list, too. I mean, I would hope that it gets a lot better for him. He plays more, gets back in the flow of things. Super proud, awesome player that will not be proud of his tape, I'm sure. But he wasn't alone. They were getting moved a lot, and a lot of their runs were to the offenses left in those B gaps where Cam lives, I
think the best way to sum that up would be, and I'm not going to play it here, Matt, because we would get fined by the FCC because there are a couple 4-letter words in there. Mm-hmm. But Patrick Queen spared no punches in the postgame.
I didn't notice it. Okay.
He basically said, we played like bleep.
Yeah.
It was
right.
It was bleeping unacceptable. And so they know that. I mean, of
course they know it.
There's a lot of, everybody likes to point out how much money is on that defensive side of the ball.
I know.
Those guys who make that kind of money, they're aware of that too. And the expectations and the pride that they take that comes with earning that level of compensation.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, now it's microscope and it's got to get better. I mean, that to me, I didn't see that coming. Like, I forget even what numbers we were talking about. Like, what if they got to 150 rushing yards? Like, ooh, I think they'll do better than that. Or I'd be fine if they got to 120, 130. They're going to run the ball like crazy. Not what happened.
They had that at halftime.
Right. Yeah.
Matt, good stuff today.
Yeah,
that was a fun show. Off and running here now. I mean, the rest of the season, it's like taking candy from a baby. I mean, we got games to recap, games to preview. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll get into some fantasy football stuff as the week rolls around, all kinds of stuff. But as you mentioned a little bit earlier, hopefully we'll get some injury news and updates. Mike Tomlin going to speak.
Keep your fingers crossed on Elliott.
Yeah, on Elliott, I think is the big one certainly. Mike Tomlin going to speak Tuesday at noon, tomorrow at noon. Okay. So we will obviously have plenty to discuss from that if and when we do get any injury updates there as well, too. Big thanks to Matt. Big thanks to our video producer, TV, in here hanging with us and pushing all the buttons in the studio. I'm Wes Uhler. Thanks, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. You know where to find us, as always. It's on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. It's Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.